We begin with a TV presentation showing a water park in a large archipelago in Thailand. There, the main attraction is an orca known as seto, a type of marine animal. They can reach almost 10 meters and weigh 5 tons. Orcas are feared as killer whales. These animals are the top predators of the oceans, capable of hunting even other whales. Orcas also have problem-solving abilities due to their great intelligence. However, they are sociable, and there the orca seto has been displaying her abilities and intelligence for 20 years. The presenter invites people to continue visiting the site, as ticket sales help in the conservation of the species in the oceans. Later, at the end of the shift, we meet 2 orca trainers, Chelsea and her friend Dana. Before heading home, they talk about their work and lament the loss of one of the orca calves they lost a few weeks ago. This particularly affects Dana, who decides to stay a little longer at the park. After her friend leaves, Dana goes to the pool and calls for the orca seto. With the animal not responding to the call, the trainer enters the aquarium pool and waits for a moment. However, she soon realizes that the animal is circling her like a predator surrounds its prey. Seeing this, she becomes scared and tries to leave. Unfortunately, it's too late, and the large animal attacks the young trainer, killing her. The scene then cuts to a restaurant, where waitress Maddie stayed after her shift from the job she got a few days ago to earn extra money. Suddenly, her boyfriend Charlie walks in and chats with her a bit. He congratulates the young woman on her graduation in advance and gifts her a gold necklace shaped like a cello, which surprises Maddie. Meanwhile, someone outside gets out of a car and heads toward the restaurant holding a gun. The young couple is in a romantic moment when the man arrives and initiates the robbery. He tells Charlie to sit down and asks Maddie for the cash in the register. She, very scared, complies. Seeing the necklace around the young woman's neck, the man demands it, which makes Charlie furious, as he didn't want to lose the gift he gave to his partner. He then stands up and confronts the robber. Falling to the ground, we see Charlie being struck multiple times with the gun, but Maddie approaches and tries to help him. When the man points the gun at the young woman, Charlie pushes her aside, and the shot just passes close to Maddie's ear, which unfortunately leaves her deaf. Charlie manages to shoot the robber with the man's own gun, which frightens him and makes him flee. Charlie runs outside and retrieves the necklace that the wounded man dropped. He hands it back to his partner, who, after the shock, is in awe of her hero's bravery. Unfortunately, suddenly, the robber returns with a truck and runs over Charlie, causing his death and leaving Maddie in shock. The scene jumps a year later. We see waitress Maddie getting ready for work. It is revealed that she has lost her hearing and needs to wear hearing aids in both ears. But as a good memory, she still wears the necklace her hero gave her. Before leaving, she receives her old friend Helen, who moved away a year ago. She arrives to invite her for some fun and asks Maddie to skip work that day to go on an adventure. To inspire her friend to return to her musical practices, she takes the broken bass of a cello and puts it in her bag to take on the trip. While gathering her things, she finds photos of her deceased friend and has fond memories of when he admired her. Helen comforts her friend and inspires her to relax a bit. Maddie, knowing she needs to breathe new air, accepts the invitation and decides to go with Helen. The two fly to one of the islands in the Andaman Sea, Thailand, where they stay at a beautiful resort. Maddie thanks her friend for the invitation and for having her friendship as something unique. Minutes later, after a refreshing bath in the pool, the two head to the beach, where they flirt with new guys. At one point, they come across a woman selling handmade crafts. Helen is enchanted by 2 wooden pieces shaped like a whale and tells her friend that they are going to do something that Maddie has experienced before. Helen says they will visit the world of the orca, which Maddie rejects. She doesn't want to see Kato in captivity, as she is against it, since she wished for the animal to be in the wild, where she first encountered it. It is revealed that she had a connection with the animal and considered it a friend. Maddie does not want to see the orca, especially after the animal lost its calf, and doesn't believe it was due to natural causes. Besides, it was not revealed where the calf's body went. Seeing that her friend didn't like the idea, Helen cancels the outing, much to Maddie's happiness, even though she had already made reservations. Minutes later, they go to Josh's booth, where Maddie picks up a brochure about the world of orcas. The guy is also not in favor of animal Ceto being in the aquarium, as it is also a prison to him. Josh wishes the animal could be in nature, where it belongs. Later at night, the trio has fun and drinks a bit. After the fun, they go to the restricted area of the orca world and enter without tickets. They wait for the guard to pass and go to the entrance of the aquarium, where Ceto is kept. Maddie goes in to visit the animal, while the friends stay making out. As soon as she is in front of the aquarium, her hearing aid receives a sound signal, and soon the large orca approaches and stares at her. Maddie is happy to reunite with an old marine friend, but becomes worried when she sees a scar on the animal's eye. Above the area, the janitor cleans the area, when he notices something in the pool and crouches to pick it up. Below, Maddie hears a noise and turns around, and the orca rises rapidly to the surface. When she turns her attention back to the aquarium, she sees the body of the dead man and screams in shock. At this moment, the security guard searches for the source of the sound and quickly finds the young people. The group runs away and distances themselves from the park before they are caught. The security guard communicates with someone via radio and talks about what happened and what was spotted in the pool. Then the park manager requests to dispose of the animal. At dawn, Helen wakes her friend who fell asleep on the beach sand and says she has a new adventure for them. So in the early morning hours, they ride jet skis. Josh takes them out to the open sea and shows a natural lagoon surrounded by rocks and a small patch of sand. Maddie is enchanted and asks why nobody comes to this beautiful spot. Josh tells her that some fishermen in the area say that the place is cursed and that even people have disappeared there. Helen is excited to post on her social media about the adventure, but Josh stops her and asks her to just have fun there. He takes her waterproof phone and puts it inside the jet ski. Not wanting to miss out on capturing memories of the moment, she asks for Maddie's phone, which was inside a plastic to keep it from getting wet. After a few minutes, Josh takes Helen for a ride on the watercraft inside the natural circle, while Maddie just relaxes on her float. The adventurers speed up and have fun, but at one point a moment of carelessness causes them to crash the jet ski into something and fall into the water. When they emerge, Helen climbs onto Maddie's float and asks what happened. Josh isn't sure what it was, but goes to check the watercraft. When he gets on the jet ski, it is revealed what knocked them down. It wasn't a rock, but rather a large aquatic creature. The young man is thrown into the water and panics. Unfortunately, he doesn't have time to save himself and is dragged to the bottom. The friends panic, seeing bloodstains around them and something large moving the water beneath them. Fearing for their lives, they look up at the rocks suspended above the water and plan to swim to them. The two paddle slowly with their hands but are surprised by the great orca. The animal approaches and sprays blood onto their faces. Frightened, they paddle quickly to reach the rock, but the line attached to the float is pulled and drags them away from the stone. This shows that the animal is intelligent and that it was the one who did this. The friends descend into despair, and Maddie pulls the rope, but the large orca passes near them, scaring them, though without directly attacking them. At this moment, Maddie begins to hear noises in her hearing aid, and it is as if she is receiving a sound signal. Suddenly, the creature emerges beside the float and reveals itself to the two, with its mouth still stained with blood. After submerging, the orca continues to move the water around the friends, who can only cling to each other to avoid falling. Knowing that they could soon be eliminated by the large animal, Maddie says that when the orca approaches, they will need to jump and swim as fast as they can. However, when this happens, Maddie falls into the water, hearing the sound again, while her friend swims tirelessly to climb onto something solid. Fortunately, before being reached by the predator, Helen climbs onto the rock and saves herself. On the other hand, Maddie is still on the float, and the rope attached to her is at the bottom of the artificial lake. The young woman throws her bag to Helen while planning a new escape opportunity. Suddenly, the rope is pulled a little, releasing the air, consequently deflating the float. Therefore, in the water, the only solution is to swim to her friend, barely avoiding an attack from the killer orca. At this moment, everything seems calm, but the friends are injured and use a piece of clothing to cover Helen's thigh wound and the injury on Maddie's foot. When they are calm, they reflect on what happened, and Maddie asserts that the creature seems to be Ceto and questions how the animal ended up there, right in her location. Maddie knows that an orca has never attacked and then killed a human, unless it was in captivity. Coincidentally, That location is an artificial cage, and the orca sees herself as a prisoner there. Unfortunately, the two young women are trapped there with the predatory creature. Most likely, the park released the orca into the sea, and then the animal got stuck there when the tide rose, or they came to leave her at that spot intentionally. A few minutes pass, and the two reflect on the situation. They are there without food, without water, without the jet ski transport that sank, and with a murderous predator surrounding them. For a brief moment, they enter despair and shout to see if anyone hears them, but it is clear that it is useless to do so, so the solution they have is to conserve their strength as much as they can. A few hours later, Helen hears something and stands up to observe the surrounding sea. They see a small boat nearby, but the noise they make is not enough to attract the people who, at a distance, do not hear them. On the other hand, these cries are clear to the large orca below them, who is just waiting for a moment to attack. Helen wonders why the creature is doing this to them, but Maddie only says that the animal is not to blame, and compared to that, the orca has been trapped for 20 years, so it's understandable that such a predator is angry with humans. After the reflection, Maddie comes across Josh's broken arm and decides to collect it, as it has a flashlight on it. Helen takes Maddie's plastic bag from the phone and blows into it, creating an air bubble, and says that it will absorb the external water, and soon they will have something to drink. Hours go by, but now the two have the flashlight to emit a light signal at night, so that someone in visible distance can observe and come to their rescue. They continue to shout for help as well, but it's of no use. A few minutes later, they are exhausted, comforting each other, but also reflecting that perhaps this is the end. They sleep there on the rock, and at dawn they wake up with the sun in their faces. For several hours, their bodies are receiving sunlight at a warm temperature, and if they stay there too long, they will not withstand and succumb to the heat, hunger, and thirst. Fortunately, Helen's idea worked, and the bag absorbed clean and pure water. However, the tiny amount of water will not quench their thirst. Sadness begins to take hold of their hearts. However, the most faithful to the belief that they will get out alive, Maddie says that together they will find a way and will survive to tell the story. Seeing that hunger is bothering their bodies, Helen asks her friend what they will eat. Remembering that there is something spiny on the rocks, the creature that injured her foot, Maddie believes it could be an edible crustacean. Maddie then slowly dives to the base of the rock to catch the crustacean. However, the orca creature passes nearby, scaring her, causing her to fall completely into the water. Quickly, Maddie collects the food and surfaces before being attacked by the orca. The friends are safe and thank the food they managed to get, but they have difficulty opening the crustacean. Maddie, with that, breaks the little box given as a gift by Charlie, which she kept since the tragic event. Fortunately, Helen manages to use the broken piece to open and have the food in hand. The two happily share the meal after hours without eating. The food does not have a pleasant flavor. With this, they almost regurgitate. However, they swallow the bitter taste and enjoy what might be the only meal of the day. The day passes, night approaches, and no rescue or living soul has appeared in that place. The two share moments they had while they were away from each other and affirm how much they love their friendship, which has lasted since they were children. In this moment of expressing their feelings, Helen says she did everything to try to fix everything she had done. Unfortunately, negative thoughts and guilt take over Helen's mind, and she laments bringing her friend to that place. Maddie tries to comfort her, asserting that everything is fine and that they will always be friends. Helen says that true friends do not make mistakes like the one she made. It is then that she confesses her sins to Maddie. Helen tells of the evil she practiced, while Maddie worked to find ways to pay off her college and help with household expenses. Helen planned crimes and had a partner who committed thefts for her, and then they shared the stolen amount. Unfortunately, on the night Charlie was killed, she didn't expect them to still be at the restaurant where they were going to steal all the money. So, after everything that happened, she distanced herself from the city, with remorse for what she participated in involuntarily since she didn't know the criminal was carrying a gun, the same one that caused Maddie's deafness. The confession leaves the young woman in tears. Therefore, Maddie is surprised and furious, as this means her beloved companion's death is her friend's fault. Helen tries to apologize to Maddie, but she does not want to talk, knowing that her friend took everything from her, the love she wanted forever. After this terrifying revelation, which breaks any feeling of happiness and hope, Maddie turns her back on Helen and interrupts the dialogue with the only human company she has there. Her fury is such that she takes off her hearing aids to not hear any sounds from her friend. Maddie cries and laments not only the loss, but also the betrayal that revealed itself in this very disturbing moment. Another day ends, and night covers the sky, leaving the two in the darkness of the sea. The next day, the situation of enmity predominates between the two young women. At one point, knowing that they will not survive if they stay there, Helen says she is going to the edge of the perimeter where there is a sand base, where the chances of spotting someone and being noticed are greater. She knows that her friend isn't listening, yet she swims to the other rock over the water to get closer to the sand. Carefully, she descends the rock and dives into the water, starting the crossing to the other stone, fearing the worst enemy at that moment, the great orca. Meanwhile, Maddie is reflective, looking at the water around her when she turns and does not see her friend on the solid base. She soon realizes that Helen is swimming slowly to the other rock, and even with Maddie's request for her to return, Helen continues. At this moment, both realize that the creature has resurfaced and is approaching them. Helen, afraid of being the next victim of the orca, quickens her swim to reach the sand as soon as possible. However, the marine creature is unusually large and is not in a hurry to attack its prey. Fortunately, this gives Maddie time to think of something. She jumps into the water and draws the killer orca toward her. The plan works. When the fierce animal swims toward Maddie, she climbs on the other rock and manages to save herself before the orca's deadly attack. On the other hand, Helen safely reaches the sand and is happy with her achievement. Minutes later, the two notice a plane flying over the area. So quickly, Helen draws a distress signal in the sand. Unfortunately, the request is not spotted, and even their screams are not perceptible. Helen continues shouting and does not realize that she has entered the water and has her knees covered. Maddie tries to alert her friend about the danger, but it's too late. The orca suddenly appears, bites the young woman's leg, and then drags her down. Agonizing seconds take over Maddie until she sees her friend emerge still alive. She watches as Helen drags herself to the sand, but unfortunately, her injuries were severe, and the blood loss causes her death there, on the spot. Maddie laments yet another loss in her life, and does not know what to do in this horrible moment. All that is left to do is stay there and hope that help will come. Hours later, already at night, she continues to use the flashlight to send a signal, but something bad happens. Besides the flashlight battery dying, the charge of her hearing aid batteries unfortunately also runs out. Now she hears nothing, and a heavy rain approaches. As soon as the water begins to fall from the sky, Maddie is grateful and drinks a little. Suddenly, the killer orca emerges and faces the young woman. Maddie knows that the animal is agonized, sad, angry, and feels once again a prisoner. For this reason, she justifies all her actions. She knows that what the beast wants is only freedom. The orca Sito, who like Maddie has lost everything, submerges again, giving Maddie a chance to reach the closest edge. Without thinking twice, the young woman swims and reaches the rocks at the edge. Finally, Maddie approaches her friend's body and cries over her loss. Minutes later, she buries her with dignity. She reflects a bit and remembers her friend's cell phone that was left inside the jet ski. Knowing it is waterproof, she decides she will retrieve it. Without fear, Maddie dives into the wreck site, quickly reaches the watercraft, and soon recovers the device. As she emerges, she discards the metallic support of the broken cello base, turns on the phone, and activates the emergency call, but the device alerts a fault and turns off forcibly. Unfortunately, Maddie is without nearby rocks, and the creature surrounds her, just like a deadly predator does with its prey. Maddie quickly dives to the jet ski in search of shelter from the killer orca, and also in search of the broken part of her cello. In the search for the object, Maddie gets the necklace caught on a stone at the bottom and needs to break it to reach the iron rod. As soon as she grabs it, she starts the counterattack against the fierce orca creature, scaring the beast by piercing its eye. Next, Maddie surfaces to catch her breath and clings to a life jacket. A few minutes later, she is floating unconscious, but for her salvation, rescue arrives to take her away from there. In the final scene, we see that Maddie has returned to play brilliantly, putting all her lived feelings and life story into a beautiful harmony. She feels happy, as that was what her friends wanted her to do. However, It is not revealed whether the feared orca was released from her captivity, but it is highly likely that the artificial lagoon is now her habitat.